Smoke still hangs in the spring air as British soldiers push open the rusted gates of Bergen-Belsen. Their boots crunch over gravel, but the sound disappears beneath the low moans of the living. The stench hits first, thick, suffocating, almost unbearable. Grown men gag, some turn away, but there's no escape. Ahead of them lies a landscape of horror. Bodies, hundreds of them, piled in mounds, limbs twisted, eyes open yet empty. Flies swarm in clouds, rising with each step. And among the corpses, the living crawl, skeletal figures draped in rags, hands outstretched, whispering in broken voices, "Wasser, bitter, water, please." The camera sweeps across the camp. Barbed wire rusts in the weak sunlight. Watchtowers loom, silent now, but still casting long shadows across the ground. Every corner of this place reeks of death. Soldiers freeze, unable to move. Nothing in their training prepared them for this. And then, the name. Spoken by prisoners, spat with hatred, Irma Grese. The beast of Belsen. Blonde, young, and merciless. Once she ruled this ground with a whip, her boots echoing across the barracks, her voice barking orders that sent prisoners trembling. But now, her fate hangs by a rope. In just months, the world will see her dragged before justice, condemned to die for the crimes committed here. Alongside her, Elisabeth Volkenrath and Juana Bormann, women whose cruelty rivaled the worst men of the SS. The gallows are waiting. Soldiers are ready. The crowd holds its breath. But what came next would leave even hardened men frozen. The gallows creak in the cold December air. A small group of British guards marches the condemned forward, boots thudding against the wooden platform. Irma Grese walks first. Barely 22, yet her face is calm, almost proud. Behind her shuffle Elisabeth Volkenrath and Juana Bormann, their eyes fixed downward, as though the weight of the past finally drags them. Each step to the noose echoes with memories of the camp they once ruled. The barbed wire, the barking dogs, the endless roll calls where prisoners collapsed in the mud, only to be beaten back to their feet. Women forced to dig trenches with bare hands. Children clinging to each other for warmth. The camp itself was never meant to be this. In 1940, Bergen-Belsen held prisoners of war, French, Belgian, Soviet. But by 1943, the SS transformed it into a concentration camp. Barracks crammed with the starving, water tainted with filth, food rations barely 800 calories a day. Hunger gnawed at every soul. Bodies withered into skeletons long before death came. Then typhus struck. Lice spread through the barracks like wildfire. Fever, sores, delirium, thousands perished in days. By spring 1945, hundreds died each sunrise. Corpses lay unburied, stacked against walls, rats feeding where guards once walked. And in the middle of it all were the women. Grese with her whip, Volkenrath with her cold efficiency, Bormann with her dogs. They enforced order with fists, kicks, and laughter at the suffering they caused. To prisoners, they were the faces of death itself. Now those faces are pale in the morning light. The nooses sway gently in the wind. Justice is about to speak. The prisoners are gone now, the barracks empty, but the memory of screams hangs in the air as the condemned are brought to face their sentence. The platform stands tall, stark against the grey sky, the noose is already tied. A hush falls over the courtyard. Guards and witnesses shift uneasily, their eyes fixed on the women who once carried power inside Bergen-Belsen. The charges have been read. Mass murder, torture, starvation, crimes against humanity. And now, the verdict echoes in every heartbeat, death. The first to step forward is Irma Grese. Blonde hair tucked neatly beneath her cap, eyes fixed ahead. She does not stumble. She does not plead. Her face is strangely serene, almost defiant. The youngest of the condemned, and yet, perhaps the most feared. The executioner reaches for her arm, but she pulls away with a sharp gesture. She does not want help. She walks to the trapdoor on her own, heels striking the wood like gunshots. A murmur runs through the crowd. Some expect begging. Some expect tears. But instead, Grese turns her head and whispers a single word, a command, "Schnell." Quickly. The noose lowers. The rope brushes against her cheek as it slips into place. Her breathing is steady, her posture rigid. The executioner tightens the knot. But then, something falters. The rope jerks as it's tested. A slip. A pause. The crowd shifts uneasily, whispers rising. The hangman's hands tremble as he readjusts the knot. For a moment, time itself seems to hold its breath. Grese's lips curl, not in fear, but in what looks like a smirk. She stares past the crowd, unflinching. The murmurs grow louder. Soldiers exchange uneasy glances. The rope waits. And the silence sharpens into a blade. The silence on the gallows stretches like a wire pulled too tight. Every man in the courtyard feels it. The crowd of soldiers and officials shift their weight, boots grinding against the frozen dirt. Even the morning wind seems to hesitate. The noose is ready, but the moment refuses to move forward. Irma Grese stands tall, her hands bound, her eyes burning cold defiance. She is unbroken. Some whisper her name, the Beast of Belsen. Tales of her cruelty ripple through the air, each story darker than the last. A guard mutters how she laughed while prisoners were whipped. Another recalls the dogs unleashed on women too weak to stand. Every word adds weight to the moment. The executioner wipes sweat from his palms. He adjusts the rope again, pulling it tight, testing the knot. Still, his hands shake. This is not just another prisoner. This is Irma Grese, the youngest woman to ever face the gallows for war crimes. Her presence is like ice in the veins. She breaks the tension herself. Lips parted, voice sharp and cutting, she spits the word again, Schnell. Quickly. Almost daring the hangman to drop the trapdoor. Almost commanding her own death. The crowd stiffens. Some flinch at the sound, others glare with hatred. But the spell is broken. The rope creaks as the executioner grips it tight. He takes one steadying breath, trying to reclaim control. Still, his fingers tremble. In the crowd, a soldier exhales slowly, as though trying to push the world forward. Another clenches his fists, knuckles white. Everyone feels the weight of this one moment, the rope, the trapdoor, the waiting silence. The gallows loom. The executioner hesitates. And for a heartbeat, it feels as if the entire war hangs suspended with her. The executioner steadies his hands, but the silence refuses to break. All eyes fix on the rope, on the pale face of Irma Grese. Her defiance lingers in the air like smoke. Somewhere in the back of the crowd, a soldier mutters under his breath, "Do it already." But the trapdoor remains closed. And then, the past collides with the present. The camera cuts away, flashing to the barracks. Prisoners pressed shoulder to shoulder, coughing, feverish. A woman collapses, her ribs sharp beneath her skin, trampled as others are forced to stand in the cold. Dogs lunge, teeth tearing into thin arms. Boots strike backs. Whips crack across faces. The sound of laughter, Grese laughter, echoes through the night. Back to the gallows. Her face is still. Eyes fixed on the horizon, as though daring death to come. The rope sways ever so slightly in the breeze. The crowd stirs, restless. Murmurs ripple through the British soldiers. They've seen combat, seen comrades fall in battle, but this moment carries a different weight. It isn't war. It isn't chaos. It is judgment, and judgment demands precision. The hangman clears his throat, adjusts his grip, tightens the knot one last time. The wood groans beneath their feet. Every creak is like a cannon blast in the silence. A bird caws overhead, startling someone in the crowd. A few heads turn sharply, hands instinctively brushing against holsters, nerves on edge. The tension is unbearable. The rope is ready. The crowd falls quiet once more, as though the world is holding its breath for the final command. But silence wouldn't last. The hangman places his hand on the lever. The gallows creak, wood groaning under the weight of history. Time begins to stretch, seconds dragging like hours. Every man in the courtyard leans forward, the world narrowing to a single figure standing rigid above the trapdoor. Irma Grese does not blink. Her chest rises and falls once, steady, deliberate. Her lips curl faintly, as though she means to die with a smile. The rope hugs the curve of her neck, its fibers rough against her skin. A cold wind cuts across the courtyard, making the noose sway. The hangman breathes hard, his knuckles white on the lever. Sweat beads on his brow. Somewhere in the crowd, a soldier whispers a count under his breath. 1, 2. The trapdoor shudders as it unlocks. Boots scrape against wood. The entire platform trembles. For an instant, no one moves. Then, a sharp crack. The trapdoor slams open. Irma Grese drops into the void. The rope whips taut, snapping her body still. A sound like thunder echoes across the courtyard. The crowd exhales as one. Some flinch and look away. Others stare in silence, their jaws clenched. The hangman lowers his gaze, steadying his breath. Above him, the rope swings gently, its burden swaying against the grey sky. On the platform, the wood is still vibrating from the release. The echo of the slam lingers, fading slowly, leaving only silence. Justice has spoken. And for the first time, the Beast of Belsen hangs quiet. The rope sways gently in the cold morning air. The gallows creak, a lonely sound that lingers long after the trapdoor has slammed shut. British soldiers shift uneasily, some staring at the ground, others watching in silence as Irma Grese's body hangs motionless. A few cross themselves, whispering prayers. Others clench their fists, jaws tight with grim satisfaction. Behind her, the other condemned women wait their turn. Elisabeth Volkenrath, stern, silent, her face as rigid as the barracks she once ruled. Juana Bormann, older, eyes dull, the leash of her dogs now replaced by the rope of justice. One by one, they too will mount the steps, hear the creak of the platform, feel the rope at their throats. And one by one, the trapdoor will fall. The witnesses remain still, the silence heavier than gunfire. For months they have prepared this moment. For years the prisoners suffered beneath these women. Now, justice does not roar. It whispers. It sways in the morning wind. Beyond the gallows lies the camp itself, stripped bare and abandoned. Barbed wire rusts in the pale light. Watchtowers stand empty, their shadows stretching long across the clearing. Inside the barracks, only silence remains. Yet the memory of Bergen-Belsen cannot be erased. The starvation, the typhus, the cruelty that turned this place into a graveyard. When the executions end, the soldiers disperse. Some walk quickly, eager to leave the gallows behind. Others linger, their eyes still fixed on the rope, as though trying to burn the image into memory. History has marked this ground. The names of the guards will fade. Their power has ended. But the stories of those who suffered here, those will remain. Her name erased. Her memory cursed. Her end remembered only as justice delivered. The gallows stand silent now, the ropes swaying like ghosts in the wind. Justice at Bergen-Belsen is complete, but the war's shadows stretch far beyond these walls. For every execution carried out here, countless other stories lie buried in the rubble of Europe, stories of betrayal, resistance, vengeance, and reckoning. This was only one ending. One execution. One moment of justice. But across Germany, Poland, and beyond, courts rise, trials unfold, and the hunted become the judged. The machinery of the Third Reich has fallen, and now the world turns its eyes to those who carried its cruelty. Some will vanish into hiding. Others will be hunted down. Many will face the rope, the bullet, or the silence of a prison cell. Every story is a window into the darkest corners of war, each one revealing not just what happened, but how humanity itself was tested, bent, and scarred. The gallows of Bergen-Belsen creak no more. But in the shadows of World War II, countless more secrets, fates, and final stands remain waiting to be uncovered. Step with us into the next story.